My mom grew up Christian. I was a weird kid. Instead of reading books growing up, I'd read the Bible around the house. I definitely felt a connection with religion, but with Christianity, it was a lot of questions I felt like, even at a young age, that just didn't make sense to me. Why would God have children? Even in the Bible, it says that, God is just. God is just, so that wouldn't be just.
How did you first hear about Islam?
In New York City, there's a lot of Islamophobia. Even to this day, if I have a question, I'll read Quran and I'll see Hadith about it. Boom, that question is answered, and my du'as have always been answered.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to Hijrah to Allah. This is your host, Brother Ibrahim. We have our guest today. Welcome.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, brother.
How you doing today?
Alhamdulillah, I'm good.
Alhamdulillah.
Good day. Nice to be here. We were talking about this for a while now. So.
Yeah, alhamdulillah, I finally got you here. Bismillah. What's your name and where you from?
My name is Kenny Correa. I am from Colombia, Medellin. I was raised in Comuna 13 in Medellin, which is notorious for its troubles and its graffiti. Even the presidents and stuff go out there for the beautiful graffiti everywhere. They don't say the nice there,
though. So did you grow up there for long, or?
No, I actually lived in Colombia until I was 4. I moved to the United States when I was 4. My father wasn't around in my life around at that period because he was in the U.S. working to get my mom and the whole family down to the United States. So when we went, we lived in Queens and Corona. That's where I lived most of my time, in a small, tiny apartment. And then I had actually moved back when I was 7 years old for about a year. My mom was planning on staying out there. There's a lot of troubles with what was going on back home. New York City is expensive, and troubles with, my father. And so she was planning on moving back completely. And then, we ended up moving back to the United States again. And then I lived there for the rest of my life until 4 years ago. I came up here to Utica, and now I'm here.
Okay. What you think about Utica?
At first, I did not like it. I hated it. But the more and more I lived here, I got used to it, the calm, the peace. Whereas in New York City, it's bang, bang, bang. You get on the subway, you're from Queens to the Bronx in 30 minutes. You know what I mean? You're everywhere. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. And so much people. Whereas here, it's calmer, but I feel like there's a richness in the people, too. And I grew up with a lot of Muslim brothers in the city, but it's like how much there are in terms of percentages, you know what I mean? It's like maybe 20% of people down there are Muslim, whereas in like here it's more like 60%. It's a smaller amount of people, but more of the people are Muslim.
Yeah. So what was it like growing up in Colombia when you went back, or in Queens?
Growing up in Colombia, I remember it was a lot of days where we're in my grandfather's house, where it was, everybody there, we would share the floor together. So my grandfather had the bed, and there was a bunk bed out in the hallway in the living room. And that'd be for like, my aunt and my mom. So me and my cousin and my brothers, we'd all like put blankets down on the floor, put a bunch of blankets, put a bunch of pillows down. We sleep on the floor together, you know what I mean? All huddled up together. Yeah. It'd be hot. So once it's middle of the night, you pushing off, get off me, You want everybody to get off you, but before you fall asleep, everybody all huddled off. Having the family tight like that was beautiful. And then the Queens, kind of lost that because all of the family was here, still in Colombia, Medellin, and we're there, like a little alone, and there was nobody to call upon then, you know what I mean? We had to adapt to, people. And in school, I still had an accent when I was, in kindergarten or first grade, so I used to get made fun of for that a lot, you know what I mean? But I caught on English really fast, alhamdulillah, mashallah. And, then I was like, I used to rub it in their face. I was like, I got this pretty fast. Y'all can't say nothing, man. Yeah. But Queens was completely different from Colombia. Like it went from everybody kind of knows you in that small area. My mom is close to your mom and this and that. And, you'd play with all the kids on the block and play soccer barefoot. And then to Queens, it was like the same thing, but not everybody from even like other Hispanics are racist towards other Hispanics. Like the Puerto Ricans didn't want to hang with the Dominicans. The Dominicans didn't want to hang with the Mexicans. So we didn't understand that. We thought like, everybody's everybody, like there's Colombians of all different colors. There's pale skinned Colombians, there's Colombians my colors with my eyes, and then there's black skinned Colombians, you know what I mean, with froze and everything. So we, me and my brothers, we never had any sort of judgment towards how anybody looked. We treated everybody the same. So it was weird to see that when we moved to the United States.
So did you always believe in God, and like what was like the religious thing in the house, or was there any religion in the house?
My mom grew up Christian, and she was really like when she was younger, she was really strict on it and everything. She went to church, and when I think with my older brother, she was a little more strict with him. But around when I was growing up, she wasn't as strict. Like it was in the house, there was Bibles in the house and everything. She wasn't really as strict with it. I've gone to church maybe, I think, 8 times, you know what I mean? Like I counted on my fingers how many times, but I was a weird kid. Instead of reading books growing up, I'd read the Bible around the house, like I think everybody is born God-fearing, you know what I mean? And just through what you see and what your parents, tell you, or what you hear from different people, experiences you have in life, it either strengthens or you lose it for a time until, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guides you back to what it is. And I'd read the Bible, and I definitely felt a connection with religion, but with Christianity, it was a lot of questions I felt like, even at a young age, that just didn't make sense to me, and then it was a long period of time, I think when I was 11 to like 16, 17, where I just like, I wasn't atheist, but I just wasn't caring about it anymore, astaghfirullah, but I was living my life completely opposite to what maybe as a young kid I wanted to intend to live my life as.
What kind of things like bothered you or you struggled with when you were that young?
I think specifically in Christianity, how, Jesus Christ just, came to earth, and he was crucified for our sins, and how he takes the bearer of all our sins, and so that, there's no more sin. To me, it didn't make sense, because like, how could a person who was supposed to be too like the embodiment of God, as the son of God, why would God have children? God isn't of this world. It didn't make sense to me. Even young, like it didn't click to me. And for us to say, take the responsibility away from our sins and say, oh, Jesus Christ died for my sins, so I can go do whatever I want. That's not fair. It's not just. And even in the Bible, it says that God is just. God is just. So that wouldn't be just. That'd be contradictory to that.
Yeah. How did you first hear about Islam, and what attracted you to it?
First heard about Islam just going around. I grew up in Queens, so many Muslim brothers and sisters. You know what I mean, like. And I think the first remarkable experience that I remember with Islam is, I remember wanting to play with a sister who, I think she was maybe in the 4th, 3rd grade, and we're already 7, 8, and she was already a hijab wearing sister, mashallah. And I'm like, I went up to her, yo, you want to play with us? And she goes, no. She goes, y'all up with your boys. Yeah. I was so confused, because I was like, what? It's like, it's so, you know what I mean? Where I'm from, all the girls play with the boys. The girls be fighting with the boys. The girls fight stronger than the boys. You know what I mean? So, and I remember, I was like, why? So then I remember the other day in class, I would ask her questions. I'd be like, and she'd be like, yo, boy, don't talk to me. But she'd be like, yeah, I answer you this, and this. And so then I talk to the brothers too. I'd be like, yo, how y'all 9-year-old already with beard? And why y'all don't shave that?
It's in the genes.
I'm saying Afghani brothers, 9, 10 years old, already full grown beards. I'm like, yo, I don't even got nothing here, nothing. I'm 9, 10. And so my first impression was off that, just the brothers that I grew up with, and I'd always ask them questions, especially New York City. There's a lot of Islamophobia, especially what would happen with 9/11. So I would always hear, and even just on TV, I'd go home and watch things on TV. I would sit on my couch and, maybe watch a program that my father had on or my mom had on, and there'd be some sort of Islamophobia in there, some sort of remark about, how the women are treated or this or that, and I just go back to school and ask my friends, is this true? Is this this? Is this that? You know what I mean? And I think that's where I got my first, definitely there. Just for some reason, not for some reason, it was definitely for a reason. I always was inclined to learn more about Islam, even since like just a little boy, mashallah.
So like the friends that you was around, how did they influence you to want to know more about Islam? Like, was their actions gearing you towards that? Like, was it attracting because of that, or did that help?
I think it definitely helped because growing up, I'd see what it was like to be a Muslim young man or young woman in the household, how they behaved, you know what I mean? Like, even though, like, let's say, like, obviously kids are kids, I had some young brothers who were just as silly as me in the classroom, who did this, who did that. But the way their mannerisms were, the way they would treat everybody, the way they would speak, like, it had discipline that, like, I was like, I mistook it for discipline that I didn't have because I didn't have a father around. That's what I mistook it for. But the more and more I seen, I understood that that's not where the discipline came from. That's not where the guidance came from. It came from being Muslim, you know what I mean, and being God-fearing and acting in a way that pleases Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so more and more as I saw that, that's what influenced me. I seen the way these, like, I remember, like, I was 10, 11 years old, I maybe had $1 to go to the store every week and that was it. And, some of the younger brothers probably got that same thing, maybe $1 or $2. And one of the brothers saw, like, a homeless man on the street, and that $1, that I don't know what the situation at home was, but that $1, that he maybe had himself for sweets, he went and bought that man a water, you know what I mean? And instead of that, and I asked him, like, like, why'd you do that? He goes, because that's gonna come back to me, you know what I mean? Eventually, that's gonna come back to me. And I didn't understand it then, and I understand it now, you know what I mean? But so just those mannerisms and the way they acted, the way they treated each other, and just the discipline and the guidance, just all of that, like, it set a good example for me that I wanted to be a part of, I think, from very young.
So tell me the moment when you realized Islam was the truth.
The moment when I realized Islam was the truth was actually more of a coming of recently. The more and more, like, before I took my Shahada, I remember when I became really inclined towards Islam, I just started reading Quran. I started reading Quran and I learned how to pray, and I would just pray at home. I was too shy, too nervous to ever come into the masjid. So even before, like, I did my Shahada, like, a lot of the brothers were surprised with the knowledge that I had already, was because I was practicing at home. So, like, I'd have the prayer times and everything I have to tell me the prayer times, and I'd pray, mashallah. And I'd read Quran. I had a friend give me an English translation of the Quran. And I'd read, and I felt as if all the little gaps I had in the little circle of my faith, the little gaps that I had in between that, were all filled when I read Quran. You know what I mean? Like, we're all filled, like, especially, like, with what our depiction of Jesus is, you know what I mean? Alayhi salam. Everything else, like, it all fit in perfectly. And I remember there's a part in the Quran where it says, if you were able to count for like people that they're like, oh, like, if God is real, then do this. If God is real, then do that. Then it says the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was able to show you, like, there's enough, like, how do I say, like, evidence in the world, you know what I mean? There's no reason for us to look for more evidence. Like, there's enough evidence on the world. And even just, like, the little things. So, like, I look at hadiths about how the Prophet Muhammad split the moon, peace be upon him. And when I was a kid, I heard that. I was like, yo, what? That's insane. And then, I grow up now and you look it up and there's a huge split on the moon that scientists found. And I'm like, yo, what? All these little things, more and more, like, I'm like, like, there's no way. In hadiths and Quran, like, it all added more and more. Like, any question that I have, even to this day, if I'm, man, like, I have a question, I'll read Quran and I'll see hadith about it. Boom, that question is answered. And more and more, my faith is strengthened. Even in my du'as, like, my du'as have always been answered, mashallah, alhamdulillah.
So when did you take your Shahada, and how was that experience?
I took my Shahada, actually, I think it's literally a flat month now on a Thursday. So I think it would make a month yesterday. Yesterday made a month that I took my Shahada. My experience was, I would make sure I'd come in for Fajr, because, one, I was too nervous to come any time throughout the day, and I knew Fajr would be the least amount of people. And so for a couple days, I'd come for Fajr in the masjid. And, I'd would come early to pray my 2 and 3 rakat and the 2 sunnah rakat before Fajr prayer. And I remember I get done praying my 2 and 3 rakat and my 2 sunnah rakat before, and Brother Mubarak is sitting there. Brother Mubarak is there every Fajr, mashallah. Yeah. And Muhammad Jibril is actually there, and so we're sitting waiting for the adhan to start. And he comes up to me. He goes, "Oh, like I've never seen you before." And he introduced himself to me. Assalamu alaikum. I go, "Wa alaikum salam, brother." Blah, blah. And we start talking. He goes, "You Muslim?" And I go, listen. So I started explaining. I go, "Listen, I want to take my Shahada, but I'm too nervous." And this was around the time that Imam Tom had was away for a little bit. And he goes, "Oh yeah, like you could, Imam Tom comes back tomorrow for Juma, inshallah." Blah. And Mubarak goes, "Why tomorrow? Why not do it right now? You know what I mean? Like, why don't we do it right now? You don't know what's gonna happen." And so we do prayer, we do Fajr prayer, and then after that I do my Shahada with there. I had Brother Mubarak who helped me, with the pronunciation, Ashhadu alla ilaha illallah, Ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh. And Muhammad was there as my witness, and Brother Shakur was there as my witness as well. And so it was like a 4 people, but I enjoyed it that way because, man, if it was Juma, I would have been like
So how long was you practicing, and like what was you like doing? Because you said you was practicing before you took your Shahada.
I think it was like maybe a month before or 2 months before Ramadan started. This year's Ramadan started. I actually had fasted for the year before's Ramadan because one of my brothers had told me. He goes, "Oh, like fast for it. Like tell me how you feel," because I had wanted to get into it, and I remember feeling, like really good at the end of Ramadan, and so then I chose to do it again this year, and then so I started practicing 2 months before. So that when was Ramadan this year?
April, yeah.
Right? Yeah. So February time. It's like February time. I would literally on YouTube, there's this Muslim page that just like has all the prayers, Fajr prayer, Zuhur prayer, and I'd put it on. I'd put it on the floor right next to where I was praying, and I'd try to follow what he was saying, and then I'd just follow his movements. You know what I mean? And then Mashallah. And I know that like early on when I started doing that, so like I treat him like as the Imam, so like I'd go after him, you know what I mean? Because I know how you're not supposed to anticipate the movements of the Imam, you're supposed to follow like after. And so I like look up the transliterations of how to say these things in Arabic. First, I set like little goals for me. All right, first, like let me learn Surah Al-Fatiha, and then I'll learn here how to pronounce it. But then let me at the same time also learn how to what it means. You know what I mean? And I'd even go to sleep like listening to like I'd go on YouTube and be like Surah Al-Fatiha for like 3 hours. I'd go to sleep listening to it, and then one day I woke up and I had it. You know what I mean? Then it was learning alhamdulillah, and then it was learning the 2 surahs that I know now, which are Wal Asr and Al-Ikhlas. And then I just, all right, I don't need this YouTube video anymore. Praying on myself and alhamdulillah, and then just learning, what time the prayers are, and I just sit there and pray, and then I'd just look up things on, okay, this is the prayer, but what is dua, what is making dua, what is dhikr, and little by little every day I'd like if I got one part of it done, I'd ask more questions. All right, now where do I go from here? So yes, that's how it started for me, and that's kind of what I was doing around that time.
May Allah continue to guide you and all of us to the right. How did your life change after becoming a Muslim?
Ooh, the peace that I have now on my life and with my future, with my past, with my present is completely different. I was, always in my life like rushing and not in peace with where I was in life, my situation in life, and or even how I was treating people, like I around that time, like I said, 11 to 16, I wouldn't say I was the best youth. I was a very angry kid, very lost, and I would take my anger out and, my daddy issues out on other people, you know what I mean? And what my situation was at home, I wasn't able to have that at home. So I take that anger out on people. Like I felt like that was the right thing to do. But when I'd go home and I was by myself laying down at night, I knew that like I regretted those things. Even though during the day I'm like, yeah, like I'm glad, like you know, I did that to that person. I really didn't. You know, I got home and I felt terrible about it. So Islam gave me a peace about these things. Like I was so rushing so fast too. Like ever since I was young, you know, seeing the poverty that we grew up in, and my mom struggling, my mom having to work 2 days a week while still trying to go to school to get her degree for her 3 boys, you know, that she was raising by herself most of the time. I was like so money influenced. You know, I need money. I need to be like, once I grow up, I need money. You know, like I want my mom to start working. I want this. I want that. Then you get caught up in wanting fame, and you want. I was like, oh, you know, yeah, I want jewelry. I want cars. I want this. I want that. And the reason why I wanted to be successful in life was just to rub it in my father's face and other people in my life that doubted me. Now I don't need that. You know, like I don't need to be negative and to do these things to brag, you know, like and I don't need money, period. Even just the needing of money, like it went away. Like, you know, like instead, like I would trade being a better Muslim in any day than having money, than wealth, because, you know, like we're not going to take that with us to the afterlife, you know, and that understanding too, that there's something after here, you know, just the way I live my life is differently, you know, and it keeps me accountable. You know, I think even just with my actions, how I speak to people, how I treat people, I feel like I become a lot kinder, you know, mashallah, you know, and I enjoy that. Like, I enjoy, like, you know, even if a person is negative to me, I don't have to act negative back to you. Whereas back then I had the idea that, all right, I have to be even more negative to you. Now you can be negative to me, I'll be positive to you. You know what I mean? I was like, all right, you know, I'll let that go. It's better for the heart. You know, my heart feels, you know, a lot cleaner. I don't go to sleep. I try not to go to sleep with any grudge or malice. You know, I've even recently, I talked to Brother David about this. I started talking to my father after 5 years and not talking to him. I hadn't spoken to him for 5 years, alhamdulillah. And, you know, I can see that he doesn't really want conversation with me, but I still try, you know, I make dua for him, you know, that his heart is softened, you know. And, but yeah, like it's changed my perspective on things, you know, my perspective on, you know, even homeless people, like, you know, I grew up, like, I see homeless people, it's like, you know, this is my money. You know, I'd like, you know, just greedy for, like, oh, like, you know, you put yourself in that situation in life. That's not my fault. I shouldn't give you anything. Whereas now I look at it completely different. I know that that's something that can happen to anybody, no matter where you are in life. Couple wrong turns, or even not even wrong turns. You just have, you know, you lose somebody in your life, and you this and you that. Anybody can end up there like this, you know, and if you walk around with arrogance, then you're definitely going to end up there eventually, you know.
So how did your family and friends react to your conversion?
It was interesting with my mom. I think my mom thought like I was like messing around at first, you know what I mean? So she was really like, especially my brothers too, like there was all jokes and giggles at home, you know what I mean? Like, oh, you're not going to eat pork, this, that, and that, you know, like in the Latino household, you know, they cook a lot of pork, you know, chicharron, you know, pernil, stuff like this. And they'd make remarks, you know, not to talk bad about them. But then eventually like, they became more warm to it. So now, like, when they know I'm praying, when times that they know I'm praying, they won't come in my room. They won't even bother me. You know, if they're watching something, they'll turn it down. You know, my mom, if she cooks pork, like she'll make sure like if she cooks my meat on a whole different pan somewhere else, you know what I mean? And like she'll like cook me chicken, she'll cook me steak, like while everybody else is eating, you know what I mean? So she's really respectful with it. She even like if I'm acting in a way where I know I'm gonna regret acting later, she's like, hey, you know, you don't want to act like that, you know, like, and so, you know, I don't know too much about it, but I know you don't want to act like that, and I know you're gonna regret that later. Like, don't do this, don't do that, you know. Have you prayed yet? You heard herself. She, are you prayed yet? Have you prayed yet? You know, like when are you going to the masjid? Like, make sure you're gonna. So she, you know, she keeps me accountable, you know. So they started getting really warm to it. My friends, honestly, like I said, most of my friends were Muslims, so they were happy. They were so happy. They're like, yo, mashallah, brother. You know what I mean? Like, they were like, yo, you got to come down in New York City again. We go to the masjid together, inshallah. And so I think, you know, everybody kind of received it really well, mostly.
Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. What would you say is your favorite thing about Islam?
My favorite thing about Islam is like the camaraderie. I don't even know how to say that word,
Camaraderie.
man. Don't cut that out, though. keep it in there. I don't know how to say that word. Whatever. But the brotherhood, you know what I mean? Like ever since I first came into the masjid, like the way or anywhere I go, like I went for my fight. It was Juma. So I had went that Juma to a masjid in Schenectady, and the brothers treated me amazing there. No matter where you go, brothers know you're Muslim. You know what I mean? The love they show you. It's like this, that. Like I went to New York City, and I was playing soccer with a bunch of Muslim brothers, and we went and we prayed Maghrib prayer right there. We did wudu at the one of the water fountains. We'd hold the button for each other, and then the other take turns, and then we all pray together. Like that sort of stuff I love. You know what I mean? I love it. Like everybody looks out for one another. The community, basically, essentially, we're trying to build a community between all of us. And the fairness and everything. Like those are my two favorite things about it.
What is your favorite thing about Allah?
About Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Wow. I don't think I'd be able to coin one favorite thing, but I think the most remarkable thing to me is how merciful Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is.
Definitely.
I grew up thinking, and one of the biggest reasons I was so scared to become Muslim was I felt I didn't deserve it. I felt the life I had led and how I treated people and, this or that. I felt, it wasn't something for me, At first it was scared of, I wouldn't be so disciplined to pray 5 times a day. But when I realized like that I could do that, my biggest fear was I don't deserve that. You know what I mean?
Was
like,
shaitan.
Yeah. Don't do it. Yo, shaitan be hating. Yeah. But I was like, I don't deserve it. You know what I mean? Like that's how I felt. But then the more and more, like I said, I read Quran and seeing how merciful Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is, and I read Hadith and everything. Like that there's a couple times, man, I won't lie to you. I sit in that room and I read Quran and I read surah about how merciful Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is, and I'd cry, I'd cry. I'd sit there and cry, like, man, like how could something be so merciful? You know what I mean? No matter everything I did, you're still gonna you're still gonna give me forgiveness. I was like, I couldn't believe it, and to this day, like it chokes me up,
MashaAllah.
MashaAllah.
So what is one of your favorite hadith or verses in the Quran or surahs in the Quran?
I think obviously like this is gonna be like a lot of people's, but Al-Ikhlas was one of the very first ones I learned. But just the power of that surah, like he begets no one, nor was he beget. You know what I mean? That was the fact that was the first surah that I learned, and one of my biggest problems with Christianity was that it's like I learned that as the first one for the reason, so like that for me is, there's none equal or comparable to him. That's true. Like, and so I also never enjoyed that, the Trinity, like how could you put the angel and Jesus Christ on the same pedestal as God, like that. So that surah right there, just and the same thing with Wal Asr, like we're all gonna be in grave loss unless you do good deeds and recommend others to the truth, and like that's like that day is inevitable. That day is coming, but it'll change for you depending on how you choose to live this life.
Yeah, and I think class is good for a lot of ex-Christians because the whole Trinity thing, or having multiple but saying one. It's just clarified.
It doesn't make sense.
It's like, you don't need no more explanation for that. It's just, and if you know the history of what happened with that, then you just be like, yeah, this makes sense from the original, So yeah, alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah.
Why should other people learn about Islam or consider becoming a Muslim? And how do you feel about that?
I think other people should learn about Islam, one, mainly because I feel that a lot of things that steer away people from Islam is the misconceptions around it. You know what I mean? So many misconceptions around it. I think one, too, that was originally like a lot of maybe the things that swayed me from Islam or that I wasn't sure about when I first found out about Islam, you know, but the more and more you learn about it, these things aren't true, you know what I mean? And I think also too that we see, you know, maybe some things that other Muslims do, or, you know, people that say they're Muslim do, and, you know, they're like, oh, that's what they all do. No, you can't do that, you know, like you got to pin that on the person, not the religion, you know. Islam itself is perfect, you know, we're men, you know, man is weak, and you can't place that on us. So you have to learn about their religion and see what's, you know, the questions that you have, and oh, they do this, they do that. Oh wait, that's not true. These wait, this actually makes sense. Oh man, this is, you know what I mean? Like this is Islam itself too is not a, I think you said this to me actually. You said it's not only just a religion, it's a way of life. You know, it's literally a cheat code of how to live your life. You know, I feel like, you know, you see so many successful Muslim brothers in no matter where, in what aspect of the world they work in or what they do, be successful because of how it teaches you to live, how it teaches you to carry yourself, how it teaches you to be, you know, in the footsteps of our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And so I think if even like somebody who's not Muslim or not religious, I think if you were for, you know, I'll give you there, like for 3 months, you know, learn about Islam and practice the daily values of being Muslim in your day. But by the end of those 3 months, you'll be Muslim, inshallah. You know, inshallah. So I think that's why, you know, that's what I really think about it.
Okay, this is the scene, the scenario. It's the day of judgment. What would you hope that your meeting on Allah would be like?
I think, you know, how everybody else would wish it to be. I hope I get that, inshallah, I get that book on my right hand, you know, like, but I know, we talk about how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will bring the believers over the hellfire, but the hellfire won't hurt them. And you'll see like brothers and sisters that you know what I mean? And he'll give us the chance, because that's how merciful Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is, to pull out the ones that we know. And I think, you know, even if it's backwards, you know, for let's say, you know, astaghfirullah, or, you know, whatever happens, God forbid, that, you know, if I'm flip side and I'm in the hellfire, to see that will really reassure us and show us just how merciful Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is. The fact that he gives your loved ones a chance to pull you out, you know what I mean? That's after everything, after you get your book, after this, after that, after your deeds are weighed, he still gives you that chance of mercy. You know, that's Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim, you know, like I think seeing that would reassure all of our hearts of just how merciful Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is, you know.
Thank you, brother, for
Thank
coming.
you, brother.
May Allah bless you and guide us all. Ameen. Until the next time, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Barakallahu feek.